I want to welcome everybody here today for another Man on the Mission. We talk about the real topics that's taking place in our community and coming up with a plan and solutions to move forward. We have a lot of topics to discuss, so of course we're going to get it started. Thank you all for coming on today. You have been truly selected for a number of different reasons, but mainly because there's a lot of wisdom in this room. There's a lot of seasoned individuals, and also there's a lot of young people in here as well. Because they're today and they're also there tomorrow. So first, I want to give a special thank you to the owner of this beautiful barbershop, Mr. Ron Sharon. Listen, your haircut is for everybody on the that's following us. Where our platform is concerned, this is called a power circle. A young man on a barbershop, get it to him. Humble. Come on down to the circle, and that's 1860 South Blue Island Avenue. That's in Pilsen. I'm going to give the mic over to Miss Africa. Miss Africa is going to come up and speak just a little bit, and going to give it over to Mr. Green, and we're going to get it started.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. You all clap for Mr. Davis. Well, we believe in supporting our own and helping us get to home ownership. Before we begin, I just want to say something for our ancestors. Last Monday, we had an elder, Bobby Stupu, and he's not with us now. He made his transition a few days ago. And we believe that him being here on last Monday with us, sharing his wisdom and giving us so much knowledge and so many tools was so prophetic. So we want to start off with our nation. Call out the names of anyone close to you that has made their transition. First, let's start with our family.
Oh, that's I'm sorry.
That's our agreement. Let's start on 3. 1, 2, 3. We do this to pay homage to our elders and ancestors. On 3, 1, 2, 3. Anyone close to you?
Uncle Charles.
Ashe.
Now let's call out the ancestor of someone from our history. Be it Dr. King, it's Black History Month. I will be well.
Victim in a lot of
Max, it's the anniversary.
Ashe. Because we want to evoke their spirit and ask them to be here with us as we continue to work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Africa. Thank you so much. Here at my home, and the Man on the Mission, the reason behind it is because we want to motivate more Black men to become homeowners, but we've also realized the importance of our Black men not only being back in the home, but the struggles that we're facing on a day-to-day basis, and the fact that we really need resources to help us overcome the obstacles of systematic oppression. So I really want to give a special thank you for Mr. J. Mark Green for creating this platform and creating this space.
All right, so I started taking my opening because that's what I was going to do today. Last week, Lennox Fountain, 2 Mondays ago, we had Man on a Mission, which is our last mission. We skipped one day. And it was at a barbershop in Roseland where we had an amazing conversation with folks like Gator Bradley and folks like Baba Yusufu. And Baba Yusufu gave some amazing gems, 70 years old, talked about how important it was to bridge in a generational gap, talked about how we look at those from our ancestors and the messages that they gave, and how do we take them today? He actually took the bus for my team members, Africa and Down, picked them up from the bus stop, just to come and be a part of this discussion. Just a few days ago, he became our ancestor. And, it is very powerful knowing that this last week he was given wisdom and talking about how we move forward with Black community. They made his transition days later. So, we definitely wanna acknowledge Bobby Super, who's now an ancestor. And as we continue this dialogue, let me also, give a big shout out to, my partner, my co-partner, co-founder, Mr. George Blueberry. And George has done an amazing work over the years and keeping folks in their homes and running a mortgage company that gives microloans to folks who are low income in these inner cities. So we appreciate you for being with us today as well. I want to give a big shout out to our team. I want to talk about our team of staff, Mickey, Africa, Florida, Christy, and what's she doing today? What's she doing? They work day to day, days of work to put this together. All of you guys were handpicked today, so that means that you have something to offer. This is very intergenerational. We cover all age ranges today. Not to say, that means that those who are the eldest in here, you guys, of course, give respect. So we definitely appreciate you guys. You said y'all choosing who the hell? I know how it is. You've been my mentor for many years. So. But we definitely appreciate you guys for being here today. And let's go ahead and get this discussion started. And how we started this for everybody that's new here is that we looked at just yesterday. I think we were over $4.2 billion in loans over the last few months, and pre-approvals and then a pipeline. And when we looked and saw there's only one that we were able to get a mortgage. So when we looked at all of the numbers in the data, we see that, of course, the majority of households are led by women, and males are not stepping up to become the homeowners of today, rebuild the family structure, be the entrepreneurs we need, build back that village. So this platform was created so we can get men to understand, men to come together and talk about what the problems are and figure out how we can bridge those resources so that we can get more males in the pipeline of ownership. And I had a quick question to George real quick. George, before we start, when you looked at I don't know if you looked at the numbers on foreclosures, because you've been helping folks stay in their homes for decades. In the urban communities, are they majority on foreclosure rate, majority women owned?
Yeah, based on the data that we provided, yes, it's majority women owned.
Okay, majority women owned. So we can go throughout the many decades and talk about the systemic problems that have made us to where family structures have been broken and males have been, they instead of home ownership, they in prison for a lot of systemic policy. We go on and on about why that is. Today we're going to talk about how do we move forward. Okay? So let's go ahead and let's have some fun. I'm going to pass it back over to Mitch.
All right, good stuff. Give them a round of applause, please. Hey, listen, let's get started. I'm super excited about it. That's a great transition that you're talking about home ownership. This first question, I usually don't do this, but I want to get it to Lucky. Don't worry, you have some time to think about it for a minute. I'm about to, say something. But anyway, the first question is, how do we overcome the fears of home ownership? And the reason why I asked that question is because young and, should I say wise? It doesn't matter the age. We have so many people out there. We had a person that we got to the finish line. She had $250,000 of buying power. She just got out of college. We found her, she had the down payment money, everything. She had a 2-unit building. One of the units had someone that was already there. So when she walked in, she's not even paying rent. The one unit is taking care of the whole mortgage, but she was scared. And she was so scared that she walked. Not only that, but her agent for her inspector to come out. So it was like, the money was there, the opportunity was there, but she was scared. So I'm gonna ask this question once again. Let me go back to it real quick. And it's, how do we overcome the fears of home ownership?
I think how we overcome fear of ownership, we get so the importance of, I don't think a lot of young black men know the importance of being a homeowner, the advantages it gives you. Just like I always looked at it like I'd rather pay a mortgage than pay a rent. 10 years ago, I'm gonna grab $60,000, $70,000 about another bill. I can't, so I always just stop by like that. So I thought we need to get an education now, so.
Okay, I'm sorry. Other members, can you tell us about yourself and how you came to that conclusion? And talk up a little bit.
How I came to that conclusion.
Like your businesses and your.
My name Lucky, I'm 23, Lucky Set Services. I'm like a property maintenance service, we do carpet cleaning, tile grout, upholstery, about the into water restoration, we do majority of, restaurants, schools, banks, daycares, we work with BET Awards. Just something learning skills, trades, investing in myself, looking at successful brothers, not just the financial aspect, but the overall lifestyle. Like every day you waking up, you do good for yourself. You're able to see another day, you're able to continue to enjoy, like the fruit of your labor, and things like that. That's really how I got into it. That's it.
Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Next question.
My name is Steve. I've been in banking with all the major banks for the last 20, 30 years. And I'm currently working with Seaway Bank for a home ownership initiative and we do seminars every week. And I can tell you, if you're renting right now, you're paying a mortgage.
Wow.
It's just somebody else's mortgage.
Yeah.
At the end of the month, you got a rent receipt. At the end of 10 years, you got 10 boxes full of rent receipts. When you buy a home, you buy it for the lowest amount you can purchase it for, you prove it, you get its value up, and then later, you can sell it for what's called a capital gain profit. You can also borrow against it using equity. So really, if we're talking about generational wealth transfer, building wealth opportunities, capital start with estate. You use the example of a two-flat building, a simple block building, renting out the first floor, living rent in the second. That's the first level of building generational wealth through real estate. Because once you occupy that property as a resident for a year, you turn around and buy another property, now that property becomes a pure investment property. Now you got a portfolio starting. The next property you turn that to a rental. Now you got two properties, you live somewhere else. Now you're developing a portfolio. So all you young guys in here, no matter what your age, don't wait to get older to buy. Buy now, and you still take advantage of the interest rates. Take advantage of the top out of interest in your savings and investment accounts. Most importantly, you're buying back opportunities from those that own it as absentee landlords and let them continue to occupy the great. So when we own, we take care of it. When we buy, we can leverage. But when you're renting at the end of the day, all you got is a bunch of rent receipts and somebody else taking your money. I got one other thing. You know, we talking about historical trends. Right now, that's all in, but you got to have the right tools to get the money from the bank. You got to use your credit repair. You got to understand what your profile looks like. You know, I talk to the borrowers every day. We're rich, poor, in between. That's all I say. More money, more profit. But when you're just young and you got nothing but this time, you got to count out rich community, take advantage of it now. And I'll leave that there. I do workshops every Wednesday and Saturday mornings to Seaway Bank. We're doing some things for Black History Month. I'm here to help and do what I can. There's a question about the future story.
A real question while we on the topic of home ownership. How many people have owned a piece of property yet? Everybody here was on. All right, keep your hand up real quick. All right, how old were you when you bought it? Your first piece of property? 31. 31. 20, you just bought yours, right? 23, right? 23. Yours? 27.
26, and the first one I lost was at 28 because I didn't know the game.
Okay. 40, 40. 20. All right, Lee, I'm about 2 pieces property at 25, all right? 25. 19. 26. All right. You missed one. Go ahead. 28. Okay. All right. Good stuff.
I just had one. First of all, let me say, I commend both on your knowledge base doing, and it's great information for us to share. But I'm gonna go back to the, because fear for Black people is based around the inability to see ourselves beyond it. It's about being able to dissect what in our lives will allow us to move forward. And then understand that it will not be taken, or we won't be pushed in a direction that is not within our best interest. And so I think the key to not only giving this information, because the information is to create a scenario in which people can see themselves. There's a saying, first you have to see it, then you can see it. And so you have to be able to do that. I just want to make one comment about Chris who was here. We met each other in 1968 when we were at the Emoji Black Students Team.
Yeah.
Putting together a citywide voice when 35,000 young people walked out and pushed to change the educational system. So we don't, even though you get to be old, what you do in your youth has a great deal to do with what you believe in the long run. And what I cherish the most is seeing the fact that we still got strong men coming up.
Wow.
That there are huge and it's tremendous amount of people that give us the reason to believe that we will survive.
Wow.
And I see it in your eyes, I see it in what you do on a daily basis. So we're not lost. We just not have time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And what we do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, King. I really appreciate that. It's powerful. You know, it's really the truth. The struggles that we have is in our neighborhood on the property line. And when people talk about systematic oppression, they say it as though it's just a hiccup and they move on to conversation. Systematic oppression means you are being attacked and treated unfairly in almost every area of life. If I go to the banks, I can't get a loan. If I go to school or I want to go to school, I can't get the proper education. Even if I go to the doctor, I don't even get the right treatment. I'm being tricked every which way. So how do you survive when the whole system is set up for you to lose? So I really appreciate that. That meant a whole lot. And let's go back to fear. And you can't be what you can't see. Because a lot of things start at home. Be the example. You don't have to, if you borrow a house, let that be common conversation. Motivate your people back where you come in. It's just, you can do it. It's just that easy. Get them on the right track to home ownership. And you won't be able to take everybody. You won't. Some people you can shove it down their throat, but they still don't want it. You still continue to move on and connect with the youth, because I don't believe you have to be 30 years old before you start hearing about home. If you got children, make it a norm in the household. If you got children, don't talk so much about, I'm gonna get you this video game, I'm gonna get you that video game. It starts with, one thing I was talking about with Green. I love to hear him say it every time. He says, when we drive around, I show my son a billboard and say, look, that's Daddy up here on the billboard. When I take them back and say, we closing on this house right there. Now what you're doing is you create a new norm for children. So now, when they get to a certain age, it's time for them to go to the next step and the next level. Let's move on. You good? All right. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm sorry.
just want to speak to that fear factor.
Yeah.
The fear has been prevalent within our community for a very, very long time. And so many times we've been made, people that have ventured out of the norm have been made examples of.
Yeah,
So there's two things, there's job security. If you don't have job security, and these women who may come in for a mortgage and they got green lights on everything, they know a lot of people that got tricked up in that no-doc loans and upside down and enticed to move out, to leave their little house that their mother left them and went out there, the country full of hills and paid all them taxes, and they're upside down. So that's a real factor in terms of what, and then if you say that women are the highest number in foreclosure, so their girlfriend, they lost their house. So you think they're gonna really just jump out there now and decide to become homeowners? But the real attack is on the black man. That's where the real attack is systematic. I know myself, I grew up in a community that was very, very rich with people that were doing things. So I had living examples. I grew up in Chatham and used to shovel Ernie Bags snow and Charlie Chu. So these were my neighbors, Mahalia Jackson, So these are people that I would see in the community. My father-in-law was Uri Abner, who was with Motown. He basically was running Motown with Barry Gordy. So these are people that inspired me. Those people don't exist in our community. They're not there, they're not visible. So the only people that you see are people that are either behind the pulpit with their hand up, or people that's taking and delivering drugs and other things to the community. That's the only example. And then you got the music, so the success that the average young person sees is making it rain at a club. And so ironically, in the barbershop, I was at a barbershop back in the summer, and I saw these little kids who were like maybe about 7 years old. So they're picking up a magazine that was like Big Bucks or something like that. So they kind of, but the conversation that was happening in the barbershop, it made me think back on when I was a kid, was entirely different. If someone was using a particular language and it was somebody underage there, they corrected you. Hey man, you see that lady there? Hey man, you see that little kid there? We gotta get back to developing our youth because all of these things matter. So it's not just that we gotta eliminate the fear factor, but we gotta come up with a different lifestyle and create a whole different brand of thinking because we've been programmed to do exactly what we do. There's no fault. We are doing exactly what the system has led us in this direction. They poison the music, the imagery, repetitive imagery has caused us to be exactly where we are. We gotta change the narrative, and the only way we're gonna change the narrative is we. So I just wanted to address the fear factor. Thank you.
Good stuff, good stuff.
Oh, go ahead.
Hey, I want to commend everyone who is a property owner, and hopefully those of you who aren't will become soon. But you are all beating the odds because right now the homeownership rate for African Americans in this country is 43%. Homeownership rate for white people is 75%. Hispanics 50%. So it is systematic. It's a historical problem that's perpetuated today. From the 1930s to the late 60s, 98% of federally backed homes in our country went to white families. And it was legal up until 68 to discriminate against a borrower based on color. So you went into a bank when I was born in 65. If you went into a bank, a white family went in, a black family went in, identical credit, identical income, the bank could simply say, I'm not going to loan to the black family because of their race. That was legal when I was born, which is really should be an extraordinary embarrassment to this country. But it was accepted. It was accepted for decades. When this was outlawed in the 60s, in the late 60s, until now, the homeownership rate should have increased dramatically. for African Americans and minorities. It has not. It's pretty much the same as when it was in 68 when discrimination was outlawed. Now, there have been other things. Subprime lending became super popular and was focused, targeted in low and moderate communities. And again, same things. In the 2000s, an African American family goes to the bank, a white family goes to the bank. Identical credentials, 8 times more likely that the black family gets a subprime loan than the white family. And that's it. And that's 20 years ago. Most of us were born then, and it was accepted practice then. Foreclosure crisis hit. Minority families in this country were disproportionately foreclosed upon. Millions and millions of families were foreclosed upon. It was disproportionately minorities. So those of you who are homeowners today, congratulations. But it's an uphill battle and it continues to be. So congrats.
Good stuff. Good stuff, good stuff.
Real quick before you go to the next thing, because we talked about foreclosures, and Wayne, and this was the point when we talked about how Black women are the highest number of foreclosures as well. And we kind of touched on it a little bit, a couple of you guys touched on it. It is so important. This is why we have this club. Because we understand that long-term success for the Black community does not mean Black women continuing to lead communities with home ownership, right? And do everything on their own. That does not show long-term success for inner cities, for women to bear all of the financial responsibility from year after year. And it ultimately leads in foreclosures. And so we must, as men, right, start to build family structures. We gotta talk, I think we're gonna talk about this. And really talk about how do we get into home ownership so that we can still provide the structure that we need for our families. And I think that is what's so important because that's the long-term success for Black communities is if we start to build back families. All right, every other culture does it. We all know that we're the only one where that's separated as we are today, where women are leading 70 to 80% of households. And that must change. So that's what this is. Man on a Mission is all about.
Got you, good stuff, good stuff. Listen, what we're gonna do is we still got, I do want everyone to have an opportunity to speak. Let's stick at 2 minutes, per person that speak 2 minutes, and we can hold it there, that'll be great. Child support. Child support has been known to hold men back home ownership, right? And the sad part about it is anybody that knows, if you leverage your property right to pull the right type of equity out, it'll put you ahead of the game. So a question that I do want to ask is, even with that being cool, things don't always work out in relationships. How do you overcome the obstacles that come along with co-parenting, still providing that family, structure? I'm gonna say it again. How do you overcome the obstacles that come along with co-parenting, still providing that family structure? Early, all right.
Well, that's very funny, well, this is first of all, I'll say that I don't feel like any situation, whether it be relationship or not, should have any effect on the kids. I think it's up to the parents, it's up to the 2 individuals that are in that relationship to make sure that the parents have what the kids are to have a regular relationship. I think that a lot of times in relationships, emotions get involved, and of course the kids are affected. But I think it's up to the adults to make sure that doesn't happen. But in regards to child support system, me personally, although some changes, I still feel like there are more changes, in place. I feel like you don't need the government to tell you what you should be doing for your kids, if you're a real dad. Now, I strategically say that because you do have some individuals out here that are not doing what they should be doing and don't want to be, but I do think there should be some type of fine tuning as it relates to the laws, with that. But I will say that
just kind of dig a little bit more deeper, even into the whole, housing market. We can't talk about the housing market without talking about African Americans. We can't talk about that without talking about the population of males, African Americans specifically, that are incarcerated. And that's the bigger issue. And we talk about, well, all these women are buying houses. Well, let's be real. Well, where are a large portion of our African Americans? They're incarcerated. And it goes back to, the oppression and what we're actually going through, as a race, in general. And that's all, a part of the issues as well. So we have to be able to figure out ways, because even when we're talking about buying houses, buying properties, well, we have to be able to say, okay, well, how do we train ourselves? How do we train our community to be able to afford these houses, to be able to have the jobs to be able to afford stuff? Because that's a part of the issue too. That large portion of, our community, well, we don't have a job that's even adequate enough to even be able to afford the funds, to be able to afford it. So, those are things that we have to talk about: trades, entrepreneurship.
Let me respond. Sorry. Let me respond on that last statement. We do have jobs. Any income, right, that we can produce to be able to afford more, the same way as we able to afford rent. And if you look at, rent is not looked at as the same standards as mortgage. So they'll give you however much amount of rent, right, knowing that you only make a certain amount of dollars. It wouldn't be the same with a mortgage. And that's what put us in these situations where folks get evicted and things like that. So the good thing about AP Mortgage Direct, which is George's CEO of a national mortgage company, is that they do microloans, right? And so microloans, $5,000 and up, so none of the homeowners. Even if you're making minimum wage, we can get you an $80,000 or more, $100,000 mortgage now. So folks will be like, I don't know no houses that I like in that number, but I can teach you how to take one of those houses, flip it, put some money into it, and then come back and get a house. So it's all about education. So the education is so important. The strategy is so important. But I will say that we always have been good at, maintaining jobs in the African American community. Many of our parents we know been working jobs. My mom been post office, everybody, okay? Everybody here, I'm sure parents or grandparents been at jobs for decades. So that's the job security is not necessarily more important than all of the systemic oppression that's going on, the terrible products that have been put in front of us, the lack of education, the lack of strategy, the lack of family structure, all of those different things play more of a part. But if anything, Black folks, we don't work or we don't hustle. And folks that we hustle, like Lucky, Lucky before he was structured in business, he was hustling, just doing this and get cash, get money. Somebody got to come to him and say, all right, put this in the bank, this is how we're gonna do it, file this on your tax. So now you have something we can put to a lender, right? So it's just about the education and strategy, I think, that we're missing. And that's what my turn to home is here to give you. But as far as child support and family structure, these are many barriers for loans, from records, felonies, from child support, and then many different things that can hurt you, right? When you're going out to loans or going out to mortgages. And I think that there's a lot of reform that needs to happen with the family law system. A lot. We are, I think, nowhere halfway where we need. And that also plays a part in how broken our family structure has been in our community. So we need to take a hard look at that. Really talk about what it needs to look like and fight for that. Because a lot of folks sit 6 figures in child support debt and they can't buy no house. They can't have a job. They're coming home. So we got a lot of that in Black communities. Anybody here?
Just so, yes, we can, even on minimum wage, you can afford homeownership. But I have to say, for young African American men, which are disproportionately incarcerated in this country, once they exit, it is not a level playing field in terms of getting a job. Getting a job with a criminal record in this country is very, very difficult. The options are very limited, and it is so many unfortunately, many, young men enter the job market and have a huge impediment. I mean, I know people who come out with a record, they go to Arby's, Walmart, entry-level jobs, and they cannot get a job, and that limits their options, so they can't get a job. I mean, this is a problem. I'm not saying it isn't new that anyone doesn't know, but we have to recognize that. That is a problem in this country, and there needs to be a better avenue, once somebody's taken that to society, a better path, where they are secure, and there's a path that holds, that holds their hand through a job into success, because otherwise, it's a problem for that young man, and it's also a problem for society. If they don't have an option, then they're gonna, I mean, the reality is, the recidivism rate is very high, and that's the problem with it. That's a barrier. That's one of the reasons why I think, you know, the woman homebuyers out on that makes a difference. And that's not something we're gonna solve with that society.
Me and George are working on something in regards to folks coming home from prison for home ownership, so it'll be big.
You have enough financial results here, so I'm not going to address that at all. But there are too many men in the room for me not to address what is the fundamental thing related to family, which is communication, right? We have to start by definition. Like, what is the definition of the term mean in relationships? So I've been married longer than most people that live in this room. So, and part of that is because of how our understanding what our expectations were. As we look at forming relationships, we also have to look at what does it mean today to be a man? And what does that mean in a relationship? What role does that mean that you're playing versus the other person that you're with? And so this is probably a conversation for another time. But until we begin to look at building on what men are supposed to be now, 2022, we are not going to form the kind of family that we need to form. Second, and this is a personal thing, buying a home is one thing, building a community is another. And as we begin to talk about strategy, we have to talk about how do we consume a community. We have typically been put in a place that we don't own, but we are restricted to living. So I spoke at an event not so long ago, and I said, you know, Black people never burn up their community. We never quiet in that community. That was a new white person. Anybody ever burn up cabin? Who burned cabin? Because we owned it. We burned the community that which we were put and other people own. But on the other hand, when we moved into certain communities in the day, all white people ran. And so we begin to consume those communities. Today, those of you that are coming up need to be looking at communities and say, Jay, I'm gonna buy a house here, I'm gonna buy that one. We're gonna own this, the entire community. And we're gonna put a store there to support ourselves at the same time. We have to look at the individual as a collective for us to be able to grow. So yeah, you buy a house, but then how do you gain a race? How do you develop a race, a community, and a nation? How do we build our collectivity and restore our traditional greatness? How do we do that? My final comment on this is we are doing so many good things that we don't know about.
That's right.
We have to take this together and talk about it. We need to be putting up a chart
That's right.
that says, this is where we're failing, this is where we're succeeding. I'm so proud to hear what you're doing in 23. That ought to be that in the movie.
You're exactly right. This now, I'm really looking to highlight these young men like yourself. You know, when show other young people somebody that is doing something that they can make it. But I want to which was, the child support. The child support thing hurt a lot of young black men. And it hurt because it really was designed in that case, not by accident. And it affected myself, and I never thought it affected myself. I had a daughter when I was like 19 years old. I sent money, took care of her in every way. And her mother never came after me for child support. She went to court and said, this man is gonna, contribute. But what they were doing, a lot of clinics had opened up on the south side that was providing medical services. And they were getting money from the government to, the state. So what they did, my daughter's mother went there and she was paying cash for like the time she came for the visit. So she went there one day and said, why are you paying for these services? You can get this for free. All you gotta do is sign up for a medical card. So she did. She didn't know that medical card that she signed up for strapped me with $125,000 of child support debt. I'm living my best life and got ready to go out the country. And my travel agent said, Wayne, you can't leave the country. So your passport is suspended. I'm like, what? Come to find out, they suspended my passport and my driver's license for child support. Never did I go to court, never was there a writ for child support ever. But the system is if your child received services, you have to pay that money back. I went to court, fought as far as I could, told me, hey, no one has ever come to court and say, first of all, you said I'm delinquent in something I never got a bill with. So if I never got my delinquent, can you answer that? No. He says, no one has ever said. I said, how can I be charged for something authorized as a purchase? How can you explain that, John? I say, furthermore, if I never consented to the services, how are you charging me? And her mother is here and appeared in court and said that I supported my child. He said, Mr. Ware, he said, no one has ever argued that any of those in this courtroom. He said, but the way the system is designed, there's no relief for it. And that's where a lot of men that, not taking care of their kids, but there's a lot of people that are in that trap, that have done the right thing and find themselves.
All right, I'm gonna move to the next question real quick. And somebody that did not have an answer, I'm gonna first, somebody that did not answer, please, feel free to talk. Okay. It's all good. So I'm gonna give you the question for you all just to think about it. And the question is, what's your definition of a man? And what did you see that made you become who you are? Goes back to what you said earlier today, you can't be what you can't see. And we try to figure out, why does that person think like that? Why does that person act like that? You know the importance of what you need, but why do you take your time and wait until the last minute? Well, a lot of it is this is what they've seen all their life, and this is quote unquote status quo. So once again, I'm asking the question, what is your definition of a man? And what did you see that made you become who you are today? And that's deep.
That's for all the young people up in here, guys.
And that's deep, because there's a lot that's going on in these households. Even if you talk about womanizing, even if you talk about disrespecting a woman, where as young men, we grow up and think, get all the women you can, and that'll make you a man. And when it comes to a woman, if she's with more than one man, you a woman out of the street. You see what I'm saying? So it's all these double standards that may be in a household as well. So let's go. Once again, what's your definition of a man? And what did you see that made you become who you are?
So my name is Noah Burrows. the definition of a man is a provider, one, but I also feel like man is aware of his reaction and emotions. The person who made that definition come to life, I was fortunate enough to grow up in a two-parent household. I was a working man, and basically seeing how he loved and cared for my mother and my brothers, it just gave me that incentive to be more like him. My father enjoys going to work, smiles, just a loving man. So I feel like following in his footsteps and being like so close to him gave me that definition.
Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Get out to the front. Come in.
Well,
I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate you all for being here. Y'all want to
what's definition of a man
What's your definition of a man?
and what are things that you
And
see?
what have you seen that made you the man you are?
Well, my definition of a man is one who can take accountability not for only himself, but for others too. I believe for us as men to grow and progress in life is to be accountable for other things that men do. Now, it's always rules like follow your homies. I found myself, as a younger, growing up, just watching how my father was, disrespecting women, calling women out their name, doing that and third. But then I realized I had to grow up and say, that's not how I want to be. That's not, I have a mom at home. I don't treat my mama like that, and I don't treat nobody else like that. A man is always walking your game. You can walk and talk all you want, but it's about how you move. You may not be able to move records. A man is a confident.
Yeah, that's true.
Always thinking. It's always on the crowd. It's always there. So see, what's his next move? I got a winter first. So what I'm gonna do to get this rent paid? What I'm gonna do to get this bill paid? What I'm gonna do to get this car loan paid? That's what a man needs to do.
My name is Big Patrick. I'm not gonna try to go too deep into like definition of what I think, but I would just use one word. I would just say leader, because I can talk about this better, but I'm gonna say a leader, and you can be leading as a man in like so many different ways. But I think a man has to be a leader, and I think that if you have a man that is not leading, then I think that kind of pushes things out of whack, like when you're talking about the home ownership. And have men that like to step up and take on the role in home ownership, any type at that point. But if they don't do it, then it's going to fall on women. And according to the statistics, so for the most part, man, what made me a man, or the things that I the community, but I pretty much looked at all the men that I knew, I looked at my dad, my uncles.
Hold it tight, yeah, hold it kind of tight.
Whether it's my father, I picked and choose, but as I grew up, and I picked and choose things that I wanted, like the man that I wanted to be for my body. My dad is perfect. He doesn't have to be, but he does some great things. Like my dad, every time I was a kid, every time I talked to him, he always speaking. Answer the phone, he called me back. Like that's something simple, but everybody had it. My brother didn't have it. He called his dad, call back, call back. So I was like, man, I'm gonna take that one. I'm gonna be like that. I was gonna be like my dad on this point, So that's kind of how I looked at it. I looked at other things that they were doing, and I took out the good things that they were doing, and I put it into myself.
And I'm gonna tell you, the older you get, and then first I call you that, because the older you get, you realize your parents don't have all the hands. It's a lot of it that for the first time, my dad, you get older, you start asking questions. Sometimes you don't even know what you don't know. My dad left home when he was 14 years old from Tulsa, Oklahoma. He had like an 8th grade education. So I went back to visit, back to where he came from in the community. So much harder. Man, everything that man did wrong, I forgave him. I'm just like, man, this is the way you well, you know what I'm saying? To stay in a $700,000 house. And in that time, he was an entrepreneur and a master electrician. And just what he did, now don't get wrong, make me wrong. Been married to my mom 60 years. Was he faithful? No. I mean, you go addicted to alcohol. I'm talking about I can go on with all his flaws is concerned, but that's it. For somebody that did not have an example, he did a damn good job. But you don't understand until you get older, so I'm proud of that. I really do applaud that. Somebody else, well, not to talk now, but can we hear first anybody that did not speak? Did not speak. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Ken here. My definition of a man is, I would say, my grandfather. Only because growing up in the house of 9 women, well, 9 people total, being him being the owner of 2 boys, 7 females, and owning the church, being able to go to work, protect, have structure, watch a flock of sheep with the congregation, and a home, still being able to come home, feed women, feed kids, protect cousins, protect nieces and nephews. Man is a protector. Man is a man of structure, personal structure that really moves in a militant way. You know what I'm saying? Militant way as in positive. You can think negative thoughts. Of course, we all you think negative thoughts all the time, but to have structure besides that, keep your focus for that person. Being a man, being a pastor, being a father, being a brother, being a uncle. About wisdom, that so being a man, yeah. My grandfather definitely showed me how to be a man at a young age, doing things for women, 7 females, regarding my sister, my grandmother, just being yourself also through different adversity. You know what I'm saying? Not changing who you are, despite a person acting the way they did toward you. You know what I'm saying? Just keep your structure, keep your focus through, literally, through everything. Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Chuck Lee. Hi, everybody. So my name is Chuck Lee. Hi, everybody. What I see as a man and the definition of it is someone that respects his woman. It's very hard when it comes to life, trials and tribulations, to stay focused and not let those emotional roller coasters hit you so hard that you start disrespecting everything around you. Think it's not worthy to even respect it. My father, he was a very good role model. And it's hard for everybody nowadays to say it was a mentor. It's actually a lot, not just someone that's their story. So I started to look up to my father, and I would listen to his stories. He would tell me he was down on the block and literally going from a barber shop to start sweeping in front without them even asking him to. And then they would hire him. So it could be little things that make you stand out, oddly, but evenly, to even get a job to provide for the rest of your family. These things that you are looking for that make you stand out can be your way of showing other people that you're a little bit more passionate about what you do, how you work, how you make your income. It's gonna make you stand out. So, you know, a lot of men have a hard time finding a job. You literally gotta make yourself stand out of that lineup in order to get a job. No matter what your background or anything is, you can catch somebody's eye. So, hey, he's working, and that can make a difference. So now I'm doing that same thing where I was like, man, I got all this extra food. Let me go feed the homeless. Then I ended up getting a job from that. And now we got 9 restaurants. So it's like, whoa, that can make a change. You know?
So we ain't hear from you. Did you want to take it? Yeah, don't be scared of it, man.
Jamal Montgomery, I say ultimately we are a man is his decision also. Reflecting on my childhood, my grandfather set the example for me. But I remember, was he perfect? No. But when it came down to making decisions for the best interest of the family, he didn't hesitate. I remember vividly when an uncle of mine, he called a murder case. And my uncle reached out and said, "David, put the house up for my mom." Maybe this, no, son, I'm not gonna do it. My daughters are bringing children in the household now. you have to be accountable for your actions. It's tough for me to do for you, but I gotta think of the best interest of my family, think of the family, like, you gotta take the sacrifice for your children. And that was his role throughout, I can't think of a better example of someone that put it all on plan for his. I heard stories, was the perfect man in the beginning, now. I mean, moving money on that house, put some bills on our house.
Yes.
Grandma talked about how we did that furnace for the first 5 years and everything like that. But we're not perfect. But we do we do our best. And if we can't strive for our best, those that we love, care about, put people before us. We think about what we see in the media today that, particularly Black people, we're just selfish. There's one out there doing anything about ourselves, not the case.
Yeah.
And we all know that. There are people we love more than ourselves. We'll lay our lives down for and give everything we got to make sure they have a better opportunity to be it. And I think that's something that we have to think about. We are our decisions.
He says, brother. My name is Brother First. I'm just proud to see the people that's usually in the streets about Take Mall, Little Rock, Sister Africa, Chris. Just so many. But my name is Brother First. My answer might hits the brothers. But I'm uncut inside talking shit. Black men don't exist, including myself. Now, when I say that, men, what do men do? Men have a cultural foundation. Saying black man can't be a man with that black fashion. Now you can go into the Israelite, just using that title because we know how we got it. How can we don't got a structure. How you a man? Let's get to the fear and talent support. The entire black community needs talent support. We kids, men, they got a foundation. How you be saying to a man when you do it? We talking about the youth. Well, who knows it? Who raised it? Including me, includes the elders too. We know how it's all out. We know the results. How can you say we men? We all over the place. We men, huh? We can't even set our titles aside. To handle the real problem, we're gonna keep protesting, praying. Yeah, that's your prescription. Teach his own. Don't get what I'm saying, Tom? As men, we can't fix it yet. We ain't got the technology to do it. We got the technology to get it. We still playing, we're gonna party out of this. Baby, they got to stop 10 minutes later. We men. How we saying we men? But we don't. But that action, you don't see no lion action on rappers, man.
Come on.
So what we doing? We're gonna keep this video on and party and clapping and applaud. Somebody got to graduate, man. You only man when you graduate to the work with what the elders gave you. We still applaud, man, in 2023 then. That's manhood. I included myself, so I'm getting ready to jump later. It's good.
No,
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It hurt me to be talking to these young brothers. I was at an event a couple of years ago, brothers, not to give y'all a war story, but it kind of brought me to tears because Sister Alpha was doing an event, I believe that was 35th in Michigan, somewhere like that. And there was just a room packed. They were speaking in this, that, and other. And I think Sister Alpha was kind of shocked because it was son. He raised his hand, man. And he spoke. And after this, he's like, what did you say to my son? Because he don't. We had that talk, and he just let off how he felt. I didn't go up to him what he personally said, out of respect for my sister. It's embarrassing. Talking about we some men and these babies. They looking at us, they keep talking. What's their action? Man, they doing. They gonna be on the camera, the cameras go off, you ain't out here with us. You ain't finna do this. I ain't asking y'all to do what I do on the street. You gotta be cut a little different. No bragging, I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? So whatever you brothers doing, it definitely, you gotta put the title aside and bring that visual example. Bring a visual example. They said, let me have this, they kick back just getting out the wisdom with doing what they do. They shouldn't have to be, oh man, stressing and going crazy.
Yeah.
So as men, let's do something manly, create a cultural foundation. Whoever willing to do it, I'm on 79, I'm on the west side, Chicago, wherever you ready, you call me, I'll tell you, neighborhood, this ain't just talking. I can go,
That's right.
you get my flyer, I ain't just happy. Tell me out after the video. This is what I do, man, I'm just one person, it's just, I need help. You ain't gotta be with me. Jay Wall right there, I know enough, he's with me, and ain't with me. Whether he's somewhere else and they was doing what he do, that's with me. What you going, you with me. You know what y'all doing, you just be doing it.
Yeah.
The visual example, this is brother got to speak. It's like, well, first time we talk about the dozens of killers. You be surprised. That's all. What's going on with brother? And keep walking. The day you don't say it, hey, man, speak to that means something. That brightens them up. Somebody killed. The villains. You're a father. What you started? You gonna leave the lady to the house and go smoke drink? He's seen it.
Yeah.
So don't wonder why they shooting, gang banging, saying that. Yeah, but y'all chasing money, so is the weed.
Yeah.
Chasing the bag and winning fast. You ain't no different than the rappers.
Yeah.
You chasing that bag, bro. We know who face on that bag. You ain't got no cultural structure in place. Some of the times before you wonder why the women going crazy or getting doing it, you leaving. But the thing is, no cultural foundation. You can't even, brother, could you take the bow tie, could you take the fans off, could you put the bean pie down, let's deal with the culture first. Could you put the fraternity on the side? No, man, I'm just forever. So the culture don't come first. I ain't telling nobody to tell you. If that's what works for you, it's no disrespect to whatever y'all is in this room. My religion is whoever look like me. That's y'all. I don't care what your tribe is, what tribe you. I ain't got time. Come on, man. We losing bodies, babies and all, getting shot in the head. We still gonna keep that beach playing. So what made me the man is, at least I got y'all eyes and ears. Because I'd rather be disagree than not. You can't get rid of them. Try.
I'm saying this up.
They're definitely blessed to be here. So I'm supposed to be, that's a unique question. I think I'm just going to echo and uplift everything everybody said because we got the right point to talk about. Being a man is definitely a leader. And I think you also have to put God in front of you. You have to have a direction in front of you. I think we gotta love ourselves. Because if we don't love ourselves, we can't love our fun, we can't love nobody. So we have to make sure we take care of stuff as well. I think someone that I've seen, I'm like a 50-50 split right there, because I've seen stuff, but the ones I expect to see, I didn't see. But I would say, and I said part of it. I always say that sometimes it's what you didn't see that makes you become who you are.
Wow.
And for me, I love my father, but he's still locked up. Hopefully, he come home soon. But it's the point of fact that I didn't really have that male role model. And I didn't have that. So with that being the case, I have children, one on the way. I could say that sometimes we try to be the opposite of what we grew up in. We try to make sure that we do a little bit different. I don't think it's a playbook on exactly how to be a good man, a good father in. Sometimes we continue to learn every day and we're growing. I think as we do that, it's so important. That's why I wanted to just sit back and listen as much as I could because the elders were saying a lot. I was just sitting back here like, man, I need to have a mentor or something. But just to hear that knowledge, it's very important to me. Just recently, last year we bought our first home. We bought it for $6,000, but I got to take his wisdom when he said he got it at his age at 26 and lost it at 28. So I need to know what mistakes, so I don't make that mistake now. Right? So I appreciate J-Mall and the entire team and everybody for putting something like this together because we got it coming all the way down. And if there's ever gonna be a way, this is how we do it, working together, building relationships. It's gonna take us to save us. And this is so dope for me. So I really appreciate this space.
Good stuff. What we're gonna do, because we do have the Zoom family, and they have a lot of questions as well and input. I'm gonna bring it over to Mr. Green first, but this is what I do want to say. I heard you loud and clear. First of all, the gentleman said, I need help. So by the time this is over, everybody needs to communicate with everybody and say, hey, what are you doing and how can I be an asset what you're doing? Number two, one thing I like what you said is it's responsibility in being a man. A man is an action. It's an action word. Being a man means you're doing something that's moving your culture, protecting your family, providing for your community. It's not just me and Greg was talking last gentleman today about the Everest commercial. You ain't doing that anyway. You on the couch. You come on the Everest. Like, be a part of the movement. Another thing that you said that was deep was that spiritual connection. Sometimes we don't have a mom. We don't have a dad. We don't have an example. So we gotta utilize that spiritual connection and say, God, guide me. Make sure my intuition is right, and then I have to listen to my intuition and allow it to lead me with making right decisions, not only for me, but for the kids that's watching me. Here you go, Greg.
And to add to that, you say, those things, you need the spiritual piece, but you also need that cultural foundation, because that's where that village comes in. That's where that unity comes in, as far as talking about how we move forward. So, brother, amazing speech, because it's so important. Just like you said, we are all with each other. We're actively moving towards the destination. And so, all of you guys here, and because you guys let me tell y'all a quick story while you're going to the deep questions. Lucky, and all three of these, all of young people in my, I call all my, even Big Patrick, I call all my sons, Joseph, I stepped in after a bit. Anyway, but you know, I treat them all like they're my sons, you know what I'm saying? And because they all young, you 22, right? 20, 23, 22, and 19. And when I met these young brothers, on story about these three, is when they saw, we talked about the example, right? When they saw, they came to my house and said, man, you own this house? Man, you own that house? Man, you do this? Man, I want to be under you. I want to get that wisdom. I want to pass it down. And me, I'm the most wise person in the world, but I've got some things that I can share that I take from my elders. That guy right there, Mr. Ronald, been mentoring me since I was 90 years old. You know what I'm saying? So I take from what he gives me, I take my connections, your spirit, right? The things that we're able to accomplish, and I pass those folks like these young guys here who constantly want to be there. They're like, I just want to be in the room. I just want to be there. I just want to listen. Take that. And for those young people coming up for that, young people that either want to, all the young people that do it, but just wanting to be here. You want to be here. To say, I'm not have but I got roots, I got experiences, but the thing I want to learn is the thing to is learn and get resources be better in. So I appreciate all the young people up here, but when we can get to the Zoom questions. Now,
Cool. Good stuff. Another thing with the brothers, any brothers that take public transportation or anything, it's dark outside. We want to make sure you get home. So if you have to, okay, cool. Good stuff. Let me get to some questions. I don't want to overlook you. You can make it short for me. Good stuff. Go ahead.
That was smooth. The only thing that I wanted to add, you know, to relates to manhood. When I was young, I was a warrior. I was fierce because I didn't have to be rampant and work out family, all that kind of stuff. The definition of manhood changes as you move through life,
Talk about it.
right? It does.
Yeah.
And so as I moved through, I began to look at accountability and responsibility because I was married, I had 2 sons, and I had to make sure that they were in place, that they were taken care of. But more importantly, as I moved through that path, I realized that their success in being safe had to do with my ability to also impact and to spread that out to the community. And so as we look to find definition in ourselves, one of the mistakes that I think we made historically was when we defined ourselves as team to push. Some of us were. Some of us were descendants of the beggars out in front of the temple. Some of us were descendants of the electricians and doctors and educators. And so as we look towards how we define ourselves, we have to look at our role, our responsibility, and what our objectives are. When I got married, the reason that I have been married for 46 years is because I kept my word.
Wow.
When I wrote my vows,
You meant that.
I meant it.
Wow.
And I kept it.
Yeah.
And so part of our responsibility is to define what our role is, what our objectives are, and where we're going in the future. If we don't do that, we can't get anybody with us. And so those of you that are moving forward, you just have to keep changing the dynamic of what is required of you. Because ultimately, it's about restoring ourselves to our traditional greatness and making sure that our communities are better than we are. And that's part of what our role should be. All right.
I'll just set it up again. I just want to.
Good job. Oh, Shepley.
The one that ran out. Real quick, I gotta change the topic.
I want to ask something quickly, Bob, I think you have something to comment. You talk about marriage, and I thought marriage.
Yeah, you know, Africa's father, Reverend Ford, was one of Africa's father, Reverend Ford, one of the most significant contributors in terms of the movement of the 60s. One of the things that, where's the owner of the barbershop? I commend you on making your facility available, because one of the things that we need are places where we can have intellectual discourse. You gotta have places where you can have these kind of conversations. And that's what her father's church represented. So my first date with my wife for 46 years was at a meeting at her father's place. That's the reason.
Yeah, I got a quick one. I'm not quite the elder. But I will say, the Black Barbershop for men has been the place where we met, tradition going back 30 years, 40 years. For me, it was Truth and Soul Black Stars on 87th Street. Haji, now you're a young man, Haji had a shop with pictures of everybody from Muhammad Ali to Louis Farrakhan to Elijah Muhammad, to everybody whose hair he cut in that shop. But when you got to that shop on Saturday morning, it was filled like this, and it may take you 8 hours to get a cut. And in that 8 hours, you talk to everybody, and you saw young folks like me, you saw young folks like me, at 12, 15 years old, and we sat and we listened, and that was wisdom. You know, Kane's barbershop. I mean, you can pick up a barbershop all over town. But what I'm telling you now is this, you know, we don't have as young black men, older black men, or any kind of black man, the luxury to be frivolous and stupid. You know, we out there in the street, yeah, we want to be free, we want to have fun, but we don't have the luxury to be stupid out on the street like the brother would say. You know, you looked at the Super Bowl last week. I enjoyed the Super Bowl. But when you looked at that halftime show, you saw the display of what was on there, and I enjoyed it. I like 50 Cent. I like my car's got Biggie and Pop playing right now. But the difference is the image that everyone saw around the world was. That's not us. You may think it's us, but it's not us. And I don't think anybody was doing that. You know, the crib walking, you know, the Mary J. Blige fighting like you want to look like she was 15. That's not us. And as far as only becoming a man, I can tell you this. I was raised by a single mother. And a black mother has raised black men for years. And we say, my dad wasn't here, my father wasn't around, he was educated, he wasn't around. My mother got a PhD from the University of Chicago, but she struggled as a black woman, raising 2 black sons. My brother was in all kinds of shit. I happened to go to school when I was an athlete. I had coaches, I had mentors like that. But we got to make a decision as black men. What's in us? What do we mean to ourselves? You know, nobody's making us do this shit out of the street. Nobody. You know, you can say I'm hungry and all that, but if you wear Jordans, you're not hungry. Exactly. So, what I'm telling you, we can't be silly in the street. We can't dress and act a fool like these white kids do, and then they get themselves together and go on to Harvard. We gotta have our shit together now. And we can't be out there stupid and wild. So I'm gonna say to you this, my flavor might be different than yours. We come in all shapes and colors and sizes. You know, Pete, you all musicians I grew up with, Kahil's of Art, Pharaoh said, but those are the people that he knew. Our generation was Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, Kool and the Gang. We partied. There is value in Tupac and all this music that's coming out, but it's not the definition of our culture. I don't give a damn what you say. I don't think we need to be calling our sisters bitches. We don't need to use the N-word as a part of our regular vocabulary. You know, we don't have to change our dialect when we talk to each other and call it white. Or we're talking with too much intelligence. We don't need to demonize our kids who are speaking correct English and go try to achieve in school. We come in all shapes and sizes. W. Du Bois was much different from Marcus Garvey. But does that make him any less of a black man? No. So I'm saying to you now, young folks, the future is yours. You know, I opened up a little nightclub in 1990 with $2 in a dream to have something for black folks to come to downtown. It was called Deshwa's Bistro. And in 10 years, we were the #1 restaurant in the city of Chicago. Michael Jordan and all the Bears and Bulls came out every weekend. But what we had is a place for black folks that fought in downtown Chicago, where there had never been a black-owned liquor license in 75 years, and there's not one right now today. You gotta tell me.
I think I was a writer at 19, and thanks to Stephen A. Why he stuck me in the kitchen because I was able to Tupac and Biggie Smalls. So thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. I'm real sorry.
With a dickie and a white shirt on, talking about Arab and Biggie tried to sneak in the back door to get to the front door. So you don't know who was coming through that, you don't know where we are. You got everybody, you got Barack Obama, with Biggie Small. So, you know, it was our pleasure to have you in here doing that. You know, we have to support Africa Poor. She is a woman that's battering this culture out of its wrong. We've got to support her. Secret. It's not the forum for us to discuss that now, but I support you all and all the activities.
Listen. I'm not gonna keep playing with y'all on this microphone. But thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm gonna switch up the question. This may be our last question tonight. We do want to hear from you, King, if you feel, you know, something in the chest you want to talk about. This is a big question right here. We lack respect for our youth, and the youth have lost respect for our elders. This has caused a disconnection. Where is the disconnect, and how do we restore it? Let me say it one more time. And I think because this panel is you know, it's people on this panel that's 150 and still think they point. You know what I'm saying? And it's not that ain't true, man. You know what I mean? But the point that I'm making is, in today's society, How can we be united? I remember when I was growing up, we couldn't curse in front of elders. We would be shamed to curse in front of elders. It was so bad in my household, we couldn't even say but. We had to say bottom or behind. We couldn't say what or what. Yeah, we talk simple. We don't say what in this house. And at a young age, you think, exactly. And a lot of, but at a young age, it's just became a lifestyle. So when we became older, when I hear my peers say a certain thing, I'm like, it makes me cringe. So the point I'm making nowadays, somebody could be 80 years old, and I'm calling her woman out here in front of them, and then if you speak on it, shut up, old man. So I'm gonna go back to the question real quick, and I want to hear from the elders, and I also want to hear from the youth, so we can get on the same. We lack respect. We lack respect for our youth, and the youth has lost respect for our elders. This has caused a great disconnect. Where is the disconnect, and how do we restore the respect? I'm gonna go to you because I know you've been waiting. Then I'm gonna come to you. All right. We need 1 minute.
Who have not spoken. Little brother, you stop.
All right, go ahead.
We're going right here, and the main thing when he asked that question, the first thing I thought about, because this is actually a situation that me and some of our people's presently living in and everything, with our interaction with people that's intergenerational, 2 generations above us, 3, and our interaction with them on in everyday life. And, you know, also me starting to interact with a younger generation, and myself, you know, a lot of people categorize age ranges the same, things are still different. You have to approach somebody younger than you as if kind of that there was a baby. Patience and understanding is the biggest thing. Because, you know, when you raise a kid, they don't know certain things. They don't know that they don't know. So you have to teach them, all right, you don't know. You can say, all right, I've been longer and everything, but sometimes you got to say that a different way. Like, people hear that every day. It's going to start to go in one ear and come out the other. So you have to say, like, all right, let's say I just bought my new car. And you trying to tell me about my car, but you say, hey, I know more than you because I had a car loan. I ain't trying to hear that. I'll take that as disrespect. You feel me? Like, are you trying to call me slow because I'm been here? That's how a lot of you say things like that. So you gotta be like, all right, man, I've had this car for like, 40 years, 3 different cars for like 40 years and stuff like that. I can break down. I know, like I've been in your. And once somebody understands that, all right, that I've been in my position before and everything, you feel like in me and in my shoes, there'll be a lot more open to understand.
Listen, I love it. There's nothing wrong with what you say, but it's your approach. Me and Miss Africa say all the time, these elders get out of line. I didn't say whatever they want to say. And if they ain't on the floor, I'm just saying, it's been a little awkward now. Get back in, I'm still in at the end of the day. We're not gonna go right here.
All right, can you take the question again?
Sorry.
Well, actually, I understand the question was about the generational, what is the problem?
Yeah, well, give it to you. We lack respect for our youth, and the youth have lost respect for our elders. This has caused a great disconnect. Where is the disconnect, and how do we restore the respect?
The disconnect is in our psychological ways of thinking. Everybody was brought up different. Everybody thinking that I can walk up to you and say 2 + 2 is, that's not right. You don't know if he's been in a foster home his whole entire life. And he just got out at no school. And he hasn't heard of it. So I'm up there, I can't call him stupid and dumb. There's 2 different definitions to that. Dumb is those that have a lack of the knowledge, and stupid is those that have it but refuse to do so. So therefore, the disconnect is how you approach any generation without expecting them to know what you know already. And that's the problem. The solution to that is having therapy. I'm being honest.
Because until you go through some form of, even communication there, or what have you been through that in your life that has affected you the most critically in order for you to address those things that no one else you felt comfortable to talk to them about? Because they have been through so many traumatic things, it stops them from even opening up to anybody because they already been through something that affected them so much, it creates this closed shell from them opening up to anybody to communicate. The only way we can get through that is that we don't expect everybody to be like us. Like you were saying, we are individual and unique. We should be the masters of ourselves. No one can be, I can't clone you. If I do, you'll be secondary and not primary. You understand? So you're the primary. You are the perfection of yourself. Once we get some kind of understanding, where's the rule book of life? You understand? Where can you go buy a book right now to teach you how to survive your life? It's not there. We need to create some more structure in order to follow through with everybody implementing on the same page. And we'll get better, communication, at least. That's it.
Listen, I'm gonna go right here, Juice, I'm gonna come on over here to the barber owner, and then I'm gonna probably take it 2 more places. You got one, all right, go ahead, Juice.
I'm John Reporter. I'd say, especially back up here, what Pierre said, and Brother Shepley said, I'm very sorry. And this next stems from how everybody understands things and how sometimes the youth from our generation or get like a few above and below, they just take things the wrong way. Because I want to say like in y'all generation there wasn't like a lot of traumatic events, but it's that we like on social media like tennis sports, like the generation is like mine and like a little low. It forces us not to like grow up, but like it forces like hypersexuality, hyper traumatic events, and it's like a lot of crazy stuff going on. But it's like the way you approach, like it really like you really gotta find like a safe way to do it because I want like everybody a little sensitive more and it's a weird way to like find like that right approach. Well,
So what he said, the social media growing more fast. The answers, they work a little bit slow, just a little bit slow, but it's growing more fast. So it's gonna be a slow. Don't do that. I got you. Let me do this. Let me say this. I want you to choose. This one piece of it. All right, cool. Let me get you, and then I'm gonna come on in.
1 minute. 1 minute.
Somebody count it down.
1 minute, 10 seconds.
Well, I think, a lot of this disconnect comes from, not having a good structure in the household as far as like having respect for your elders. I think that needs to come back for sure. I think elderly people also need to not look at the kids and as in the sense of like, I don't know what they're talking about is because they're younger, they don't have any knowledge of what's going on because today's society is completely different from when you have some of the older people there. Because of social media and stuff like that, people are way more influenced, easily influenced than they were back in the older days. So I think it's just a lot of things that come to it, but at the end of the day, I think everybody needs to respect each other, respect each other's opinions, and do a better job of communicating.
All right, we're gonna come down. Get on down there with, there you go.
So I think that, to piggyback off of Robert's point, structure, I think that we cannot, forget about the fact of the removal of God from the schools, the removal of God from the homes, the removal of fathers from the homes. I mean, all of that plays a huge role, as it relates to the disconnect, because that all talks about structure, the discipline. I mean, it is, literally, we're watching the whole 3-day removal, you put all of the head, pins in, so where's the structure at these local gangs? So, now you have block by block, you know what I mean? So you can't ignore any of that, and of course, I mean, to the brother's point, as far as the parents, I mean, that's a huge, part in our community as well. I mean, we can't talk about the disconnect without talking about the mental health, we talk about the traumas. I mean, one thing that y'all heard tonight from everybody is that everybody has some type of trauma when it comes to their childhood. Well, how are we dealing with that? How is our community dealing with that? We have, and so now you got these, these kids that's raising kids, having babies. So then now you got the grandparents raising them. Well, guess what? They tired. They done. So now what? So now what happens to that kid? Who's really raising the kids? Then the kid goes to the street. Then the kid goes to the block. And then that's how you lose them. So the disconnect has to start with us in this room. To the brother's point earlier. We the mentors. Who do the kids look up to these days? Who are they looking up to? We can't talk about the rappers and NBA folks. Well, guess what? That's all they get. That's all they get. So until we start dealing with those real issues, we're not gonna be able to close that gap.
Echo everything everybody just stated, basically. Structure teaches respect, it teaches all of this stuff. I think for me in particular, I'll say, we can't be scared. We can't be scared to touch on the future, right? Because our youth is the future. And a lot of times, a lot of folks are scared to interact. And we can't be scared. We gotta, hey, I don't care if you think they hear you, you don't, you be surprised who's still listening to you when you talk, and you be surprised what they can take from it. And I just think about that in my scenarios where you might not think I was, but I was listening to everything you were saying, so I just think we just can't be scared to approach them, but a lot of what I get out of it when I work with the youth and children is that we got to meet them where they at. We got to meet them where they at. Everything y'all saying, we just got to go right back there. This is where they at. We got to meet them right there. We can't push them to go nowhere else, but they ain't, so you got to work with them where they at and build them up. And I think continuing to show it, that's the only way. So we, that's why I stop right there. I'm gonna just say that, I don't think it's as easy as simple as far as the disconnect between the older generation and the younger generation, but I do think it's a little bit simpler than when we look at it. I think that if I understand it going into before even the communication part, because if you have a certain understanding, then sometimes there's no need for communication. You might not even need to say anything. What I mean is like, if I understand that the knowledge is not just coming from the elders, but it's also a two-way street. Knowledge can be coming from us to them. They can learn from us just like we can learn from them. We got a generation. We got generations. We got generations of that. I know that my nieces and nephews, they understand the technology better. They do. I see them playing with it. So. Sometimes even my when I have a relationship with my partner, sometimes I don't even understand so bad. I know what I'm talking about. And he wants me to understand so bad that he knows he's talking about. I gotta sit back by myself and get my understanding. I know my dad understands. I say, well, what if my dad teach him? I say, well, I ain't never met my dad. But that goes the problem right there. Right. So it's some things that I can't even expect from my own father. And I won't hold him to it. I would love him anyway. There's certain things, but guess what? One day I'm gonna be in that same position. My kids gonna be looking at me like, why you ain't do this or why I never do it. So it's just, I think the communication, the understanding is more important than the communication itself. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
we're lucky, and then we're gonna come back this way. Elvis last. We gotta pay this.
I feel like the communication. I'm not gonna lie to you, like, me personally, I feel like I'm 23, I feel like I'm doing, and I don't know everything, of course, like, y'all see this a lot. But then I also feel like you gotta watch and listen. And I didn't listen to a lot of men growing up and then sent up the room. So I feel like you have to get accountable. Like, you a man, we man. Y'all over, we are, you gotta show respect, give respect at the same time. I'm gonna give you your respect way before you give mine, but I'm gonna need to know that you know what you're talking about. Like, I'm gonna need to see it, like they said, I'm gonna need to be an example. Don't just tell me what you're talking about, because, no, that ain't gonna work for me. I got families that depend on me, things like that, so we need to know my culture, my foundation, right? So if you give me a good example, then sure, we can work with it, be like that. Well, like you said, you can sit out the room.
That's how you know who's on the street. Hey, I can't wait to get to the elders, man. Don and Russell, they tell us. And, you know, me and Mr. Romney very much alike, and very much my life, so I can't wait to get the mic. So that's why he want to. I already know what he's thinking. I can look at somebody say, I know what he's thinking, because we got the same birthday too. We all think we both think alike. All right, so let me first say, to wrap up some of the few things that people said, consideration, I think is very, very, we do not in the Black community where folks look at each other or look at young people, and they automatically feel like, well, you know, they set these imaginary expectations for what they think that person is supposed to know, or how that person is supposed to act based on where that person has been, and the consideration is not there to meet people exactly where they are. So when we meet somebody we don't know, like somebody said foster homes, somebody said they don't know they've been foster, they don't know if they've been abused, they don't know what they've been through, so when they approach them, they don't approach them trying to start a conversation, or they don't approach them trying to figure out how they can make a connection. It's more of, y'all need to be doing this, or y'all need to, y'all, how long y'all feel with y'all patients? Why y'all don't feel it? And that type of language is what turns them off. And so that consideration, understand, why they didn't answer? What if this thing only been, you know what I'm saying? You don't know what situation they got going on, but it's the talking at them of why we can't bridge that gap. So I want the elders to understand that piece of that consideration, because all these young people, we've all been through a lot of things, and we all told our life story today. You would be amazed to see us here today. So understanding that we are triggered by certain things because of some of the things we've been through, that consideration piece. And understanding also for elders, there's a lot of elders who think that they know it all. And it's not a shot to my elder, because he don't, okay? Now, but they think they know it all. And so they don't understand that they went through a lot of trials, tribulations, and errors, and if they do it all, we probably will be further as a community. So there has been a lot of mistakes as well. So for them to understand that we are also a new generation that is detached from prior generations, and we are also going to make mistakes. We are also going to go out there and get sent up the river.
Not that.
All right, sent up the river. That's what I said. Sent up the river. So, all right, we get up the river, but we get up the river. So at the end of the day, you know, that under that consideration, understanding that they obviously went through a lot of trials as well, and understanding that, we're going to make mistakes because we're not perfect, and we think differently because the environment and the world that we live in is different from the world that you live in. So we're gonna make some different mistakes that you made, all right? So those are my few things. I'm gonna pass down. Let's keep it to 1 minute. We're gonna wrap so we can eat, network real quick, before we get to the elders. All y'all first, all right? Then once we get to our last young person, cut the cameras off.
Man, to speak on this real briefly, I met Lucky when I was 17 years old. I was in like a real, like, iffy path in my life. And I didn't believe that Lucky had on the business, being so young. And Lucky had showed me, what Rocky told me at the time, his company, like things that he would do with business. I was on the tree with Lucky. I took him on as like a mentor, really like a big brother. I had 3 brothers on my own that's older than me. They never had that studying this like foundation. So when I met Lucky, he didn't know it, but I grasped onto him immediately. And I loved him, you know, just for the mere fact he separated himself from the odds. And Lucky had taught me how to start up my company and how to be profitable and just be a man, but really with me being so young, I already know that like I'm not at that point of manhood yet, you know, that was like a daily journey. But just to speak on like what brother had said as far as we have to teach each other and like grasp onto the mentor, I kind of feel like that's the process that needs to happen with our babies and our youth. Like they need that image. And I just want to let everybody know that he was my image.
Young people, elder category right now.
I love this question. First off, when I got in the room, I won't be up the energy from all the intelligence. It excites me. I love it. It is very bad. Y'all just so disparity between the elders. I figured out, I've seen today that it's a generation. You know, when it's 2 or 3 generational gap is a skip, then that's where the disparity gets more and more. As I was walking around, I see some shorty, they, you know, doing everything, you know, shorty had, he was fussing, he was trying to hustle people $5, one talking about $1. You know, we went up there, we gave them the money, things like that, we look out for little people, because that's how the people who was 30 years old look out for us, when we was living. And that's why I really think I think we all really, first off, the elders. A lot of elders don't want to say no. We're gonna say no on that, but the apologies for the others, because though it may not be you guys, there's a lot of things that our previous leaders have led us to where we are right now. Literally leading us into a burning campus. And I don't know about y'all, but I ain't trying to burn. Yeah. And that's why I believe that an apology first will get that. Okay, now we understand. Now we understand. Okay, it's not their fault. They understand where we come from. They understand our fault. They understand where they're going. You're looking at us, and we struggling. You're struggling too. But we want to know that from where you sitting there as kids. You know, we want to know that from kids. You know? Woo!
Apology for the hell. Everybody make it one else. Please, let's keep it at 1 minute. Before one of the elders gets the mic, can you the mic so I can transition it up? Yeah, he did.
All right, so I'll say the first thing, probably make sure you don't approach the youth with fear. Be judged about who somebody is, somebody is something. Of course, there's person before. But also kind of put yourself, it goes back to what y'all did. You know what I'm saying? Get to where somebody's there. Try and put yourself in their shoes. You will show, you know what I'm saying? You ain't have nobody back in your day to show you the way. Be the person to show somebody else the way, because you wish you wouldn't have had that when you was growing up. I wish I had somebody to show me that, oh, during high school, I gotta stay on my stuff, I might have to, you know what I'm saying? take up a job on Sunday, ooh, I ain't nobody show me that, but that's what I'm trying to be for anybody else or something. No, I have all, me and my partner, we started on clothing and everything like that. We got people that's helping us out because they might not have had somebody to show them the way, but they want to be there for people. Fun. It just goes on generation to generation. When you do that for somebody under you, they're gonna do that for somebody under you. It's gonna keep going. That's how we get better and develop that structure. That's how we get role models back. That's how we get people to look up, you know what I'm saying, to each other and value each other. And about just looking out for, you know, meeting them where they at, like I said before.
Everybody pretty much took the word now on, stating every point that needs to be proven in 2022, where we at right now in life, what's going on with social media, day by day action. That's what's really going on in life, period. Simple, singular, plural, everything, like everything ties into it when it comes down to it. You're supposed to respect our elders, take wisdom from them, actually be a sponge. Don't be that sponge that wants to be squared every time, just releasing everything that you haven't learned fully. So that you can pass it on to the next person, because you haven't really learned it yet. So then be a sponge when they do speak, so that you can utilize it the correct way.
He's right there, but I got it.
Thirty seconds. That's all I want to start. I want to first say, let's get for one. So we don't get ready. I'm gonna start my elders. Me too. I was the guy. And the reason why elders are so important in the community, just the fact, when you say elder, it don't mean old. It's now I'm experienced. Young man, is shut up and sit down, I can teach you something. Just because I'm not teaching you the way you want to be taught, truth is still truth at the end of the day. So if I gotta yell at you, scream at you, do whatever, how many times the man gonna say, pull up your hands? Elder gotta say, pull up your hands, please, can you tell me, please, can you? Now when somebody approaches you when you don't want to be approached, now you know, but the elder told you the wrong way, so I'm gonna hand it over to the elder, and I first want to say, you don't know what they're talking about. But second of all, I want to say, we appreciate you. Because in all actuality, you all have paved some way with some roads that we could not walk down if you didn't come before. So I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you, we appreciate you, and we love you. All right, now listen, when we got here, that is because I want to start a block, but you can't come. You probably got it, the video can't take it. I'm personal.
I first want to say, as an elder, that I'm sorry to this generation. And because we broke the bar. We've been so into that generation like it was so into us. But you know the reason why? Because we were closer to the root. We were closer to those who made that transition from the South, that came here with a spiritual hope, and if we could just make it north. And as we arrive and we had things handed to us, I don't have the experience in the burn. The other thing is this: we all judge people based on our life experiences. So when you find an old person, and I'm speaking of what he said, I have never been bamboozled or led down the road by anybody more so than an older person. Wow. Because I thought when I saw gray hair was wisdom. Young fools turn into old. And you gotta know what you're dealing with. You think just because there's somebody older and they say, oh, listen, I got something to tell you, listen, be careful who you take instruction from. Because they're not all on your side. They are mad because you young and they old. And they will send you off. And mind you, I wouldn't tell you old people's wisdom, I got to tell them. But anyway, the biggest divide is that.
Yeah.
I don't know what you know. I've been young, I've never been young in your generation, because times have changed. The only thing I can speak to is basically certain principles of life that are absolute.
Yeah.
That's love,
Yeah.
respect, peace. Those are the things that apply to what you're dealing with in your generation. I don't have to be wrong. You don't have to be wrong in order for me to be right.
Right.
We both can have different opinions on something and both be right. But it's not my objective to be right. It's my objective to elevate you. I only share my life experience with you, and whatever you can glean from that and apply to your life, take it. But I'm not gonna look at you. What I did and made a mistake of this. I was working with young people when I was young. I started, Mamie Till Mobley is my godmother, was my godmother. And at the age of 7 years old, I was all over the country with her doing Dr. King's speeches. So that's why my conviction and my desire to work with young people, it was in me. And her mother prophesied over me as a kid and told me what I had to do. And because of this, now this old that I'm on now, I love what we have here today. And we need more. And just being in the room. There's certain, we don't have to preach to anybody. You be around some old people, you're gonna learn some things from them. Just by accident. I ain't got to tell you. You see, I got young people that didn't know one end when I was in construction, they didn't know one end of a hammer from another. They used a pipe wrench to hammer a leg. Because they didn't have a father. But I had a father that taught me everything. How to wipe a table. There was a system that mopping the floor. You don't just mop the floor. If you saw you mopping the floor without a system, hey, what do you know with that mop? Everybody don't know how to mop a floor or sweep a floor. This is into it.
That's real.
I believe that. I believe that. That was beautiful. On his polo bike. But the biggest thing is respect, and understanding that I can learn from you. In order for me to be effective in changing and doing what I need to do, I need to learn from I need your opinion, because I don't understand a lot of things, because I didn't go through that. I'm gonna tell you one story. I had one kid I helped to get through college. Took him off the street. He was selling drugs. He came out with his bachelor's degree, and he came out, called me up, and he called me out, telling me, I got my job, and this is what I'm doing. He called me up and said, Mr. Way, I gotta go back to the streets. He said, I can't make it. I said, what happened? He said, I got child support taking my money on my job. He said, I got parking tickets. The city and took 2 cars from me already. One I'm still trying to pay it along. You help me get my credit right. But the city making me pay for a car, I have to get another car. He said, the only way I can get out of this is go back to the streets. You got a lot of young men that have reached the point of disparity. They don't see a way out. We have not carved a path for them to get out from these situations that they're in, from the system that put them in the situation. It's not all about what's their choice. They got caught in a dragnet. And everybody, and then when I got caught in that same dragnet and with child support, it opened my eyes to looking at somebody else's plight. I grew up in China. I didn't know nothing about what was going on in some of these communities, but I had cousins and I had no. So I wasn't a street guy, but I was a brawler. I didn't see gang, no gang. I didn't have no gang affiliations at all. But if you wanted to fight, I was down for a fight. It was a jet fight. I didn't pick on nobody, but I didn't let nobody just come in my neighborhood and go. That's all.
What's wrong, last?
I've never been so happy to be an old man in my life. I'm gonna be applying for Social Security for the next 3 weeks. I can only say to y'all is this. In 61 years, I've been through trials, tribulations, tests of every description. I've had it all, I lost it all, I got it back and lost it all again. So you got to live long enough to have some experience. You got to live long enough to evolve. And I also say, if I knew now, if I knew then what I know now, I'd be in a totally different place. It just doesn't work like that. You're 22, 27, you got 40, 50, 60 more years to go before you can say, how it helped. Tell me, in that 67 years, you're gonna see political trends change, you're gonna see catastrophes, you're gonna see death. Your friends are gonna die from natural causes and otherwise. Live long enough to get through the test and you see how strong you will now.
Yeah, come on, wait, come to the next level first. You damn well. Yeah, it's a good way to get it right.
What is, and Stephen touched on this, is we talk about wisdom, we talk about experience, but what we're really talking about is failure. We have all failed. The older, I'm 56, the older you get, the more times you fail. And every time you fail, that's when you learn. You learn a lot more from your failures and your successes, and we have all failed. I mean, everyone in this room has failed, but we just happen to fail more. And so there's a lot to learn. And if you can avoid some of those failures or reduce them, it can really help propel you. So whatever you can learn from whoever's older, it's experience, it's wisdom, but it's really a failure.
Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Good stuff. Woo!
Man, forget you. I still owe you, but get my weekends. Let me just say this now, for you young brothers. The future is bright. It's beautiful, man. There's a lot of work that's been paid. You don't have to make the same mistakes that many of us made. You will make your mistakes. That's understandable. It happens. That's life. But you got mentorship, and you got a better head on your show. It was you do have your trials, you have everything you're gonna have to endure, but it's really right. You got what it takes. You got a different perspective. You got sort of background, got access to that. You can make different moves. And I mean, from someone that's transitioning to, I guess, middle age, to elder now. I mean, I'm definitely quite sure other brothers out here for you as well. So, nothing is new. Yeah, I'm sure I see beautiful families struggling, see homes, see everything, all the riches that my parents like. So
I'm gonna say one quick thing. The measure of a man is not how many times you get knocked down, but how many times you get back up.
And dealing with that respect.
Hey, hold on 1 second. Shall I leave?
But back to the respect. That's an expressive response of respect between the generations.
Yeah.
Whether it's men, boys, women, girls, same time. Goes everything everybody's saying goes back to that. You never have a cultural foundation. Having been clear. Now, if you kind of heard when I heard elders say we dropped the ball, we messed up, we failed, dog. The thing is, because of people understand, we got to free this thing and we just start hard. Baby mamas here, Rolling Stone and that, and kids everywhere, just women hurting. It's a lot. You understand, you wanted that free. It took a drastic change. When young people say, young brother told me 2 years ago, he said, little brother, or big brother, he said, man, I respect you as an elder or big brother, but if we see it hasn't worked for y'all, what we listening? Wow. said in the beginning of the brother, make sure I heard what he said, they be working, y'all. What we listening to y'all? Oh, that's y'all heard. The youth, man. I understand why the elders speaking for little brothers now. I understand why they say come off disrespectful. It's still men in it. You know, it kind of bothers us to see all these killing, shooting, gang banging, this, that, and other. No you let that out loud. I got time to understand you right now. You killing me, man.
Yeah,
You shoot my brother, my mom, you kill my brother.
Yeah.
You ain't got time to explain something.
Yeah.
You wonder why we frustrated or got time to approach them?
Yeah.
And you carry it. Who doing it?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be this, all that. But if this is what I'm saying, I gotta be one too, man.
Yeah.
I might be 70 or 80, but I ain't ready to go yet. Hey, that's the exciting for the walk. Then you walk on to whatever your mom got going on.
Yeah.
But still you got to do. Now, if you wasn't to live, they did what they got. But at that moment in time, we got to be on point from out there, though. Now, another guy we have, my son, Percy, he said, Daddy, look, I can teach you a lot of stuff on my phone from asking questions. He said, well, you're supposed to be the parent. But we teaching you stuff. I said, well, you sound like you're on way to tell me. Daddy, I can do what I'm doing on the phone. So, yeah, I don't have to tell him, man. But we just having fun with it. We just, hey, you think you know something? It's a different gap. So when we see that, when to the youth, y'all like, well, y'all don't get it. We a whole other generation. You're right. We can't keep fucking with this change. Computers, this, that, other, trying to learn. So yeah, it's gonna look different. I understand when some of you poking their chest out, some of these young guys, they paying the rent, man. They get money now on what? Whether they robbing, loot, or whatever they doing, they make them feel happy, just like we start working and doing whatever. They feel good paying their rent, bringing them groceries and feeding their brother. Yeah, I'm the man in the house, so I'm telling my mom what to do. So when people tell me, brother first, you need to go talk to them little killers out there in the street. They out of order. I said, sister, look, I'm not gonna gender blame nobody. If you raising them out of order, how you want me to get them in order while they got a pussy and money? You raising them out of order. But see, here's a question that my pinch sister. Y'all nurturers. The disconnect happens when you going against that man's structure. You abusing your authority, whether you got money, getting your hair, nails, glasses, and all that. Some men are leaving the house, so they come to just disrespecting you want to play. They just refuse to be in a household with the son got to give men disrespect.
Fact.
You know what happened to the structure? Listen to the little boys that's talking crazy to the elders. Who they sound like, just like their mom.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong, yeah.
You just like your dad.
See, now, I want to know this police brutality thing you got here last night. We hear all the names and videos. Brother, first, I said, look, y'all don't want to hear men for real, not real men, because when we coming. Oh, I didn't know you was going to say all that to my boy. Get that nigga, see? I ain't want me to speak at a strong. I said, wow, I just spoke at 6 strongers. And I was just that nigga talking that black mess over there, right? The preacher don't know what to say. But we also have a gender gap. It ain't just the youth and this, that, and the other. The young brothers split them too. So the thing is, I'm a male. How do we get the nurturers that's raising the whole community to get about this culture?
Wow.
You don't care about the culture? What you think these babies gonna do? They gonna keep sounding like they want? You ain't got a bag, nigga. What you want? You can't get my hair down with it? They call Tyrone. I have a quick message to the youngest youth in the room, which is sister over there. Congratulations. I just hope you ain't taking it. You ain't gotta listen to me, bro. That's a life coming. After 5 months, that baby ears start working for you to stop. I don't know what you're saying, but we know majority of the community, they hear a lot of foul language. So when the eyes and ears start working, they come, that's what it is. That's what the pigs look like. They look just like me. With respect, if I ask J. Wall right now, pass me that. He probably passed me water, right? Here's the problem. We talk so negative and disrespectful growing up, and that's what the babies didn't hear and seeing it. You don't even know that I disrespected him because I didn't ask him. I told him.
Wow. Wow. So,
Close that door. Turn the light off. Close the door. This is how we talk to each other. This is the baby's watch. So how do you expect them to respect us? Is it on this? Who raised this? What did this say in the book? They pass out instead of, I don't trip on none of that swag, whatever they do. They can always throw it back in your face. Nigga, we saw them old Soul Train videos back in the 60s. Y'all wouldn't expect it. You tripping on my pants. I had some old, you wearing bras. Y'all funny delicate. What y'all doing?
they had eyeshadow.
The thing is, it goes back to the point. We gotta put together cultural foundation and put aside the silly differences. I'm missing on that. But I can go on, I ain't gonna do that forever. He stood up, I know what that
Hey, amazing. Hey, yo, let me say this before I give it over to our last young people on close. This will be the last comment of the day. Let me just say to my mentor, Mr. Pickett. He is one of the most amazing men ever. One of the most amazing men that I've ever met. And I met him as a young boy, and being my mentor all of these years, he always talked to me like he would want to understand where I came from. He would give his advice. He would never tell me I'm wrong, or say, no, keep it this way. Or he always built a relationship to understand that this is a lion with a lot of fire. Just like he was. We got the same birthday and everything. He's Leo like me. And then when he met me, I was passed over from his wife, because she was a substitute teacher, who I was acting crazy. I was kicked out of 9 schools, I went to 12, y'all been done. I was a little kid, right? And so he understood, you know, how to be an amazing mentor, how to talk to me, how to give me resources, how to energy into theater and movies and things of that sort. He put me in my first movie when I was a young boy and Boys and Man. So I just wanted to soften the blow for all y'all. Make me feel good, you know what I'm saying? He is, I guess, the most senior here, and I just want to thank him for being here. Thank him for being my mentor and being there for me all these years. Love you so much.
Thank you, Jamal. Jamal was very young. And one of the things that I hope that people recognize is that leadership is something that is bred in a person. When you see them, you don't have to change them. You have to give them the tools to allow them to be themselves. And that's what I've always tried to do with Jamal. When he said some things online, I really want to say that. I asked you one day, so what's up with the girls and that stuff? He didn't want to talk about that much. But I want you all to do it. I want to go back to the initial question. Because there is a fallacy in the question. When we use the term we, in contrast to some, we need to use some. This brother said, I want to apologize to you. I owe you no apology. Nothing. Not one apology for anything. Because I have given. When my wife and I came back to Chicago, we committed to tutor 14 to 19 year olds. So we mentioned 14 to 19 year olds that we did over 800 in the course of the period of time we came back. I have been committed to the beginning of my life to Black people and continue to do that. The only reason that I'm saying this is because we need to stop looking at ourselves outside of ourselves. The mere fact that you're in this room means that Black people care. So if you stand and you say Black people don't care, Black people won't this, Black people don't, look in the mirror. And if you do, we do. And so we have to stop being negative about ourselves, because the real reflection is not in what we are, it is what other people show us we are. When we talk about rap negatively, we're not talking about rap. We're talking about what white people are proud to be on. Which does not represent us. There is a ton of incredibly creative people that are doing wonderful work just on the people. And so the challenge for us is to look at the world and say, how do we master it in a way that we provide a source for not only the people that are in front of us, but the people that are behind us as well. I truly agree that just because we're old doesn't mean you know anything. And just because you're young doesn't mean you learn enough to share it and for somebody to believe it. But what we do owe each other is an understanding of history and a direction that improves the quality of our lives. We have to look at the method but how do we save our people? And when you look at creating, if you're an artist, if you're a writer, if you're building a home, if you're doing any of that, the question that you should hold in your head, but how does it free us? How does it improve the overall quality of the lives of the community in which we find ourselves? When I said that I don't owe you anything, I wasn't doing anything. On every project that I have done for the majority of my life, I've taken a young person with me. When I was in Nigeria shooting a film with Danny Glover, the young brother from here, every project that we do, we circle ourselves with folks, because what we understood earlier, we need to be around forever. So you gotta be able to pass this thing on, which is why I'm humble with you. Check out me today. As busy as my schedule is, check out me today, just if you show up for a barbershop. Right? I had come forward. And the reason that I come forward, the reason that I show up for is because with his flaws and promise, he can be the best of us. Right? And unless we turn around the people that are behind us and say, come on, then we fall. And so I praise those of you that are doing this wonderful work. I praise those of you that have committed to build your family. Come on. That you commit to build these communities that have business. And the only other thing that I want to say to you, that I close and be more person is oftentimes you only get 24. Then all of us, I don't care. I say Jay-Z or me. All you get is 24 hours. And what in each day, and what you are is what you spend the majority of that time doing. What do you do with your 24? And as you look at your 24, if you're making a positive impact on saving money, on building community, on educating yourself, you've done good. If you spend the majority of that time getting high, chasing women, or hanging on the corner, wasting time, that's what you are. So look at your time, look at your day, and say, what am I doing? Because that's what we have to do. We have to use our time on this planet, which is limited, to do the best we can and leave it like
So as we close, real quick, as we close, I'm gonna give to Don to close out. I want everybody here who don't know each other, you know who's in the room. Everybody in here was selected because all of you guys, great minds, something to offer here. Our next step and solution is, that's one of them. Number two is that we want to make sure that everybody's a homeowner. You know, much in home, okay? We want to also make sure that you have any resources that you need to grow and wherever you are, and we will be able to direct you or provide the resources. So make sure you see me or a member of my team. We have some amazing people here. My co-founder, George Newberry, you know, owns a mortgage company and many other companies. And the real estate world, so I want you to make sure that y'all meet George. My boy Wayne here he's building the first movie studio on the south side of Chicago. So he has large warehouse space that he purchased where I also store my buses. We do a lot of business and have a great relationship as well. So I always do work with young people. I tell you, y'all see him right here. Mr. Rami is a renowned film producer who has been an amazing producer also way longer than I was for amazing movies and media. So I just want y'all see all of the people in the room meet each other, even the young people with their businesses, the activists, the folks. Joseph, I know got Mr. Dad's Father Club, and my boy Early Walker has one of the biggest tow truck companies in the state, W&W Towing. And y'all just had a TV show and everything, you know, he's on the TV show. Yeah. So everybody here does amazing things. I want all of you guys to make sure that you connect, you talk to each other, and see how you can either collaborate, work together, or just be a resource. All of the resources I have in this country, I don't utilize them every day, but I love people that I can go in the field to get wisdom from and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or just have somebody to connect with. And that's your network is your network. All right, I'm gonna pass it over to now.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna wrap it up. I want to say one thing. First off, I gotta say, it really made me chuckle. So what happened? Africa gave me, which everyone has to sign. Please, I'm gonna give everyone a waiver. Out of respect for Mr. Ron Sharad. He's opened up his space. So anything he asked is, can everybody please sign a waiver? So I'm not giving you the space for free. Then you trip and fall, and then now I'm getting sued at the same time. So let's respect the man, and everybody please sign the waiver on the way out. Miss Africa gave me the waiver form to hand to the young lady, and this gentleman, which is her husband, he pulled me to the side and said, "What you got, my wife?" On the side. But I'm gonna tell you something. It made me chuckle because that's the covering we need. You see what I'm saying? That's the kind of covering we need as Black families. We need covering like that. Let me move forward. So first of all, I also want to give it up to Mr. Ron Sharad. Thank you so much for having us. Please stand up and give him a round. Another thing I want to say, I know you probably don't need any more business, but can I book an appointment with you? If anybody needs a haircut, the least we can do is book an appointment with the young man. The next thing I want to say, please, we got some refreshments over here.
You want to take a picture?
Okay, we're gonna get a group picture. We got some refreshments over here, so please allow the women to eat first. And also, like I said before, I need everyone to sign a waiver, that's gonna be, we had some, the followers, let me see, I gotta say hello to them first. Thank you for D Winters. And also there's a gentleman that always, was it from Texas? Dallas, Texas, that he zoomed in or from Dallas, Texas, and he wanna be a part of the Man on a Mission in any way that he can. So it's reaching out, to people who wanna start doing city to city. I'm gonna let you close out and we done for today.
Yeah, we're gonna close by everybody saying, say his name to Baba Yusufu. Baba Yusufu. Say Ashe. Ashe. May he rest. And we thank him for being on the last Man on a Mission. He has transitioned since then. So we will always keep lifting his name. This Man on a Mission, Monday is going to be dedicated to him. All right. So now let's have something. Mr. Rickman, went to the bathroom, but we can start to come together to do a group. So what do you want, sir? All right, everybody, come on in. Come on in, all my men, all the men, early water. I know you ain't gonna jump up, but that's cool. Thomas in the back, Thomas in the back.
Yeah, you definitely eat first.
We're gonna do y'all test because I know y'all need. Okay, you say so. Come on in, right down now. Come on in. Okay, all places can be safe. Hey, he's not. Okay, there you go. All right, I'm gonna take you with this one first. You see everybody? Okay, hey, make sure. Okay, you hide, Playboy. Yeah, in between the shoulders. You hide. See how his hands in the way? In between the shoulders. In between the shoulders. There we go. There we go. In between the shoulders. Good, good, fellas. There you go, Barbara. All right, fellas.
1, 2.
Good one. We got the shoes. Okay, now hand him off. Hand him off.
Hold on. If I turn it on, we do not have insurance.
Y'all look great, man. Great conversation. Y'all look good. Absolutely.
We'll let women in 2 seconds. Come on. So.
Y'all some players, man. Okay, give me, okay, give me some
Get your wife. No, it's good. I'm a holder. I'm a holder right
Alright, do y'all come in strong? I want y'all to come in like a family. I know we trying to.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, y'all, okay. Okay, come on, now. All right. Good job. Great job, y'all. All right.
All right, y'all, let's see.
Hey, Chrissy. We turn this on.
Good night. Good night. Yes, say good night. Good night. Thanks for coming, Brother First. We appreciate you.
Who is that?
It's Shanae. It's
Hey,
Shanae.
hey. Peace to everybody. Hope y'all got that message.